Welcome to our deep dive, and this time we're going to be looking at Sadhguru.
Yeah.
Um, I have to admit, I'm fascinated by this guy. Like,
Yeah.
you sent over some really interesting articles, and it's just amazing how much he does.
Yeah.
Yoga and environmentalism and writing, all these
He's
things.
everywhere.
Yeah, he's everywhere.
Yeah, it's not your typical spiritual leader's resume.
No, not at all.
That's very interesting.
So let's just jump right in. So where does this all begin?
Well, he was born Jagi Vasudev in 1957
Okay.
in Mysore, India.
In India.
And his family actually wasn't particularly spiritual.
Oh, really?
Yeah, his dad was an ophthalmologist
Huh.
and his mom a homemaker.
Okay, so not the traditional guru upbringing.
Not at all.
Interesting.
In fact, he studied English literature at the University of Mysore
Wow.
and secured the second rank in his class.
So it sounds like he could have gone in a completely different direction.
He could have.
I wonder how his family felt about his choices.
I'm sure that was some interesting family dynamics there.
Yeah.
But instead of going on to further academic study, he started a poultry farm.
A poultry farm.
Yeah.
That's unexpected.
It is a little bit unexpected.
I mean, what drew him to that?
Well, apparently, he liked that it offered him peace and quiet, when he wasn't working,
Okay.
so he could explore other interests, like writing poetry.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the income from the farm actually helped support him while he was teaching yoga later on.
Okay.
But then, in addition to that, he co-founded a construction company
Oh, wow.
called Build Aids with a friend
So he's a chicken farmer and a construction worker
and a construction entrepreneur.
and a construction entrepreneur.
Yeah.
This is interesting.
It speaks to his very multifaceted nature.
It really does.
Yeah. And this construction venture is interesting because he had no formal training in engineering.
Oh, wow.
So he just used the experience that he'd gained from building the poultry farm.
Wow. So he was just learning by doing.
Yeah. Kind of forging his own path.
Yeah.
That seems to be a little bit of a theme with him.
Yeah. Okay. So we've got the entrepreneur phase. But somewhere along the line, spirituality enters the picture.
Yeah.
How does that happen?
Well, so in his mid-20s, he started taking these frequent motorcycle trips
Okay.
to the Chamundi Hills.
Mm-hmm.
And on one of these trips, when he was 25,
Okay.
he had this really profound experience.
Okay. I'm sensing a turning point here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
He describes it as this profound feeling of oneness with everything around him.
Okay.
So a complete merging of himself with the universe.
Wow. So that's quite the shift in perspective.
It is, yeah. And it wasn't just a fleeting feeling.
Okay.
6 days later, he had a very similar experience at home,
Wow.
which really convinced him that it wasn't just some random occurrence.
So at this point, does he decide to just devote his life to spirituality?
Well, not immediately.
Okay.
He decided to spend a year traveling and meditating. It's kind of like he needed to integrate this new awareness that he had into his being.
Okay.
And after this period of really intense inner reflection,
Yeah.
he felt this urge to share his experiences with others through yoga.
Okay. So this is 1982. He becomes Sadhguru, the yoga teacher.
Yes.
What kind of yoga does he teach?
He began teaching what he calls Sahaja Sthiti Yoga.
Sahajasthiti yoga.
Yes.
Okay.
In Mysore.
What's the focus there?
So it's designed to reach a state of effortless meditative experience.
Okay.
And the name itself actually means a natural state.
Okay.
So he wanted to make a path to spiritual liberation that was accessible to modern people,
Okay.
regardless of their backgrounds or beliefs.
And he's doing this while he's traveling around on his motorcycle.
Yeah, he was traveling around Karnataka and Hyderabad on his motorcycle teaching.
Wow. So this eventually leads to the Isha Foundation in 1992.
Yes, in 1992.
And I'm guessing this becomes kind of the hub for everything.
It does, yeah. It becomes the platform for all his spiritual teachings, his environmental activism,
Right.
even his social commentary.
Wow.
It's a very multifaceted organization.
Okay.
Mainly run by volunteers,
Oh, wow.
which speaks to the community aspect of his work.
Yeah. Okay.
And then 2 years later, he established the Isha Yoga Center
Okay.
near the Veliangiri Mountains in
Yeah.
Coimbatore,
Uh-huh.
Tamil Nadu.
I've heard that's an incredible place.
It's meant to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, a space where people can go to deepen their practice and experience the transformative power of yoga.
So we go from poultry farmer to construction entrepreneur to wandering yogi to now establishing a foundation and an ashram. But there's more.
There's definitely more.
Yeah.
You were mentioning all those articles about his environmental work.
Yes, and that's actually what really caught my attention.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't seem like the stereotypical guru.
No, he does.
Who's just sitting in an ashram detached from the world's problems.
No, not at all.
He seems very engaged.
Very engaged.
Yeah.
He believes that environmental action is a really integral part of spiritual growth.
Interesting.
Yeah, he sees it as an expression of our interconnectedness with nature.
Okay.
So very much in line with a lot of spiritual traditions.
Yeah.
And he's put this belief into action.
Okay.
With quite a few large-scale initiatives.
Yeah, we've got Project Green Hands.
Yeah.
Rally for Rivers.
Yeah.
Poverty Calling. All of these are aiming at environmental issues.
That's right.
I think the one that most people know him for is Save Soil.
Absolutely. Especially in recent years.
Yeah.
Save Soil has been massive.
Yeah, it's a big one.
He went on a 100-day motorcycle journey.
Oh, wow.
That started in London.
Wow.
And ended in southern India in 2022.
Okay.
All to raise awareness about soil degradation.
That's pretty amazing how he's using his platform to bring this issue to people's attention.
It really is, and he's not just talking about it.
Yeah.
You know, he addressed the UN Convention to combat desertification.
Wow.
Urging world leaders to take action.
That's huge.
Yeah, and he's been on The Daily Show with Trevor Noah.
Yeah, I saw that.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
He's been everywhere.
Discussing this with a much wider audience.
Yeah, it's great.
He's really trying to bring this into the mainstream conversation.
Yeah, and I think he's done a pretty good job.
I think so, too.
But what is the soil crisis that he keeps talking about?
Well, so the UN's Food and Agriculture Organization.
Okay.
They're predicting that 90% of the Earth's topsoil will be at risk by 2050.
Wow. 2050 isn't that far away.
It's not. No.
And if we lose our topsoil, we lose our ability to grow food.
Exactly.
It's pretty scary.
It's pretty scary.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Sadhguru is advocating for policy changes and individual actions to regenerate the soil and protect our future.
So it sounds like he's not just pointing out a problem, he's also offering solutions.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's really key to his whole philosophy.
Yeah.
He's about taking action, both internally through spiritual practice and externally by engaging with the world's challenges.
So we've got the entrepreneur, the yogi, the environmentalist.
Yeah.
What else is there?
He's a prolific writer.
Oh, that's right. You mentioned the books.
Yeah.
Inner Engineering and Karma.
Yeah.
What are those about?
So they offer a really practical guide to navigate the complexities of life.
Okay.
And delve into his core teaching.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And those are New York Times bestsellers.
They are.
They must resonate with people.
They do.
I'm kind of curious to hear more about these teachings.
Yeah.
Because like you said, he can translate these complex spiritual concepts into accessible language. And that's probably a big part of his appeal.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, he's been invited to speak at all these prestigious events worldwide.
He has.
Like the UN Millennium World Peace Summit.
Yeah.
The British House of Lords, MIT.
The World Economic Forum.
Wow, he's spoken at all those places.
He has.
So he's this spiritual leader, environmental activist, best-selling author.
Sought-after speaker.
Yeah.
He even received India's second highest civilian award.
Yeah.
The Padma Bhushan.
Yes, in 2017.
In 2017.
He also consecrated the Adiyogi Shiva statue that year.
Oh, yeah.
Which is officially the world's largest bust.
I've seen pictures of that.
Yeah.
It's massive.
It is massive.
Okay, so clearly he's accomplished a lot.
He has.
He's gained a lot of recognition for his work. But he's not without his critics.
That's very true.
Yeah, I know that from the articles that you sent.
Yeah, he's definitely a complex figure.
Yeah.
Who sparks a lot of debate.
Well, I'm intrigued to dive into some of that.
Yeah.
Maybe that's where we should pick up next time.
Yeah, that sounds like a good plan.
Okay.
We can explore those different perspectives and try and understand the complexities surrounding this fascinating individual.
All right. Sounds good.
Yeah.
So last time we were talking about Sadhguru, and we talked about all these accomplishments.
Yeah. Which is really impressive, but also kind of confusing. Like, how does he do all this?
It's a lot.
It is a lot.
Yeah.
But we left off on the note of controversies.
Right.
And I'm definitely ready to delve into those now.
Okay.
So where should we start?
Well, one of the most common criticisms is that some of his claims about science and health are pseudoscientific.
Okay. I can see where that could be a point of contention.
Yeah.
Can you give me some examples?
Well, for instance, he advocates for the use of mercury in traditional Indian medicine.
Okay.
Even though India's banned it.
Right.
And he's also claimed that he can solidify mercury at room temperature.
I remember reading about that. And scientists have kind of refuted that.
Yeah, they've challenged that claim.
Okay.
And then there's his statements about lunar eclipses.
Yeah.
Having this detrimental effect on the body.
What's his reasoning there?
He suggests that eclipses can disrupt the body's energy flow.
Mm.
But again, this isn't really supported by scientific evidence.
So there's this clash between his traditional beliefs and modern science.
Yeah, it definitely sparks debate.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, and it's not just science.
Okay.
His views on social and political issues have also generated controversy.
Right, you're talking about the accusations of Hindu nationalism.
Yeah, that's part of it.
Okay.
He says he doesn't belong to any political party.
Right.
But some of his statements have been interpreted as aligning with that ideology.
Can you give me some examples of that?
Well, there was an incident where he referred to a Muslim student as a Taliban,
Oh, yeah, I read about that.
which led to a lot of criticism.
Yeah.
And he later apologized for that comment.
Okay.
But it definitely raised concerns about his views on religious minorities.
Yeah, that's a really sensitive topic.
It is.
And then there was also the controversy surrounding his support of the 2019 Citizenship Amendment Act.
Yes.
Which a lot of people saw as discriminatory towards Muslims.
Right, and he acknowledged that there were communication failures by the government regarding the act. But he ultimately supported it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I guess that further fueled this perception
It did.
of him being aligned with Hindu nationalist politics.
It did.
Okay. Were there any other instances that caused a stir?
He's also made statements that have been considered inflammatory,
Okay.
like referring to liberals as fanatics.
Yeah, those kinds of generalizations can be very problematic.
They can be.
Yeah.
And it's important to note that these are just a few examples.
Right.
The controversies surrounding Sadhguru are complex.
Yeah, there are a lot of nuances.
There are.
And it's not always black and white.
Yeah.
It's more like shades of gray.
Shades of gray.
And I think it's important for us to just acknowledge that we're presenting these controversies as part of a bigger picture. We're not trying to label him
Absolutely.
in any way.
We're just trying to present a balanced perspective.
Yeah.
And let listeners come to their own conclusions.
Exactly. Okay, so we've talked about the controversies, but I kind of want to circle back to his core teachings.
Okay.
You mentioned the books Inner Engineering and Karma.
Yeah.
So what's he trying to convey in those?
Well, in Inner Engineering, he offers a system for achieving well-being
Okay.
through yogic practices and exploring one's inner nature.
Mm.
So it's really about taking control of your mind and emotions
Okay.
and leading to a more joyful and fulfilling life.
That sounds like something a lot of people could benefit from,
I think so.
especially in today's world.
Especially in today's world.
Yeah.
And then in Karma, he dives into the concept of karma,
Okay.
but not as some kind of predestination,
Okay.
but as a dynamic force
Okay.
that we shape through our thoughts, actions, and intentions.
So we create our own destiny.
Exactly.
That's a very empowering message.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's central to a lot of his teachings.
Okay.
He really emphasizes human potential
Okay.
and the possibility of transforming ourselves through conscious effort.
So we've talked about his spiritual side, his environmental activism. Mm-hmm.
And the controversies.
Right.
But how does he see all these different things fitting together?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
He actually views them as interconnected.
Okay.
He sees environmental consciousness as an extension of inner transformation.
Okay.
So he believes that as we become more aware of ourselves and our place in the universe, we naturally develop a sense of responsibility for the planet.
So it's not about compartmentalizing these different areas.
Yeah.
It's all part of this one holistic approach.
Exactly.
Okay.
And this is reflected in his teaching style.
Okay.
He uses stories, humor, real-life examples
Yeah.
to make ancient wisdom relevant to modern audiences.
And that's why he's so engaging.
Yeah, he's not afraid to tackle complex issues or encourage critical thinking.
Yeah, that definitely comes across
Yeah.
in his interviews and his speeches.
Yeah.
So it brings us back to this question of legacy.
Right.
How will he be remembered?
That's hard to say.
Yeah.
He's still a relatively young man.
And the story's still unfolding,
Yeah.
but he's definitely left a mark on the world.
Yeah, he's a fascinating and complex figure.
He is.
Someone who really defies categorization.
Yeah.
It's been quite a journey.
It has.
Just trying to understand the breadth of his work and the controversies that surround him.
It really has.
Maybe that's part of his appeal.
I think it is.
He challenges us to look beyond the surface, question our assumptions, consider new perspectives.
Exactly.
And I think that's a really valuable lesson.
I think so too.
It's amazing how we've gone from poultry farms to these really profound spiritual experiences to global environmental campaigns.
Yeah.
It's like he's got his hands in everything.
It's like he's multiple archetypes in one person.
Right.
Right? The entrepreneur, the mystic, the activist, the author. And then there's that controversial figure who's not afraid to challenge conventions.
Yeah, and that's what makes this so interesting.
Yeah.
He's not just this one-dimensional figure.
Right.
It's like peeling back layers of an onion and you keep discovering new things.
Yeah. And that's what keeps people engaged.
Yeah.
Whether they agree with him or not.
Right.
There's something about him that sparks curiosity.
I have to admit, I was pretty skeptical at first.
Yeah.
You know, like, oh, another guru with a huge following.
Right.
But the more we've uncovered about him, the more intrigued I've become.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a real depth to his message.
There is.
Even if you don't agree with everything he says,
right.
he pushes buttons.
He does.
But he raises these crucial questions about our relationship with ourselves, with each other, with the planet.
Right. And those questions are becoming even more relevant in today's world.
They are.
I mean, thinking back to that statistic about topsoil depletion.
Right.
Like 90% at risk by 2050.
It's a wake-up call.
It is a wake-up call.
Yeah.
And whether you agree with his approach or not, he's brought this issue to the forefront.
Absolutely he has. And he's not just preaching to the choir. You know, he's engaging with world leaders and scientists and celebrities, even podcast hosts like Joe Rogan.
Yeah, he's been everywhere.
He's trying to bridge that gap between different ideologies and worldviews.
And that's no easy feat these days.
Not at all.
Especially in today's very polarized world.
It takes a certain level of audacity, even charisma.
Yeah. Do you think that's part of his success?
I think so. You know, he's provocative.
Yeah.
He challenges people's thinking. He's even a bit humorous at times.
Yeah. He doesn't fit the mold of like that typical guru.
Not at all.
And I think that's why he stands out.
Right. He's using all the tools at his disposal.
Yeah.
Ancient wisdom, modern communication techniques.
Yeah.
Even a bit of showmanship.
He's playing the game on his own terms.
He is. And it's working. He's built this global movement.
He has.
Attracting millions of followers.
Yeah.
It's fascinating to see how he's leveraging his platform to create change, both internally through his spiritual teachings and externally through his environmental and social initiatives.
So back to this question of legacy.
Yeah.
How will he be remembered?
Hard to say.
Yeah.
In the grand scheme of things.
But he's definitely shaking things up.
He is.
He's not just talking about change.
Right.
He's trying to make it happen.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what really sets him apart from other spiritual leaders.
I think so too.
He's not content with just offering teachings or retreating from the world.
Yeah.
He's trying to engage with all the challenges and the complexities of the modern world.
He's trying to make a tangible difference.
He is. And whether you see him as a visionary leader or a controversial figure or something in between, there's no denying that he's a force to be reckoned with.
He is.
And he's pushing boundaries, provoking conversations,
Right.
and really just leaving the world a little bit different than he found it.
That's a pretty remarkable legacy.
It is. It's been really eye-opening diving into his world.
It has.
And I have a feeling this is not the last we're going to hear about Sadhguru.
Probably not.
He keeps evolving, keeps pushing the envelope, keeps us guessing.
I'm curious to see what he does next.
Me too.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect note to end on.
Okay.
Sadhguru is a reminder that life is a process of exploration and growth and evolution. And there's always more to learn, more to discover, and more to contribute.
Yeah, thanks for joining me on this deep dive.
Of course.
It's been a fascinating journey, and as always, we encourage you to keep exploring and questioning and forming your own conclusions about the people and ideas that shape our world.